Household religion is the term used to represent religious practice within families and their homes. Some practices of household religion can be performed outside the house, in temples, shrines, etc. In ancient Israel, household religion played an influential role in people's daily lives. Things such as food, objects, practices, and artifacts are all important parts of household religion.
The religion of ancient Israel, Yahwism, has an extremely interesting and in-depth history. Based on archaeological discoveries and the references to the Midianites, it is known that the beginning of Yahwism all took place in the time period before 1100 BCE. Moses, the founder of Yahwism, fled from an unnamed pharaoh into the land of Midian, where he then married the daughter of the Midianites' priest. During this time, Moses experienced what is called the theophany of Yahweh in a thorn bush. This thorn bush was blazing on fire, however it was not being consumed by it. This story is also in Exodus 3:1-4-17. The story of the thorn bush dates all the way back to the Old Testament, which draws a lot of similarities to the religion. The Yahweh origin story is identical to the story of Moses in the Bible, which shows that they were the same religion until at one point it split off. Yahwism was a polytheistic religion, however there were times where shifts in beliefs occurred. Based on the time periods, it is known that a century before the Mosaic era, and the advent of Yahwism, Egypt experienced a brief episode of radical monotheism. This varies from the normal worship of multiple deities, which is definitely interesting. To me, this is because of the deep connection between Yahwism and Catholicism. During this period, many of the beliefs and teachings can be cross-referenced to the Old Testament of the Bible. The Mosaic era is when Yahwism began, which all makes sense as Yahwism must have slowly drifted away from monotheism as we neared the death of Jesus. This also reflects Moses' struggles with his people on Mount Sinai and the worship of other gods. There must be a connection to those worshippers in the popular religion of ancient Israel. It appears, however, that towards the end of the Iron Age, or time of the ancient Israelites, that there was in fact a shift back into monotheism, acknowledging Yahweh as the sole God.
Archaeological discoveries show evidence of family and household religion. Things such as lamps, incense burners, figurines, pottery, and amulets have been discovered in ancient Israelite homes and are suspected to be cultic objects. Objects like the figurines were used for healing and protection. When more than one artifact is found in proximity to others, it implies that it was once a cultic corner, which is a space in a house dedicated to cultic activities. When bunches of cultic objects are found together, the objects are typically small in size. This implies that religious activities took place within homes, and families set up shrines, which is also supported by biblical text. In Judges 17-18, Micah and his family set up a shrine with various figurines and other cultic objects. In the Bronze Age, goblets, vessels, amulets, clay masks, and bronze figurines were also found in ancient Israelite homes. These were all used in ritual activities. Neighborhood shrines have been found where cultic objects that were found in homes are collected outside of family homes. Shrines were assembled near fireplaces or in cooking or eating areas. Because of this, it is assumed that these practices were performed by the women in the household who were in charge of kitchen duties. Accordingly, women were very important to the household religion in ancient Israel. Household life in ancient Israel connects to household religion in many ways. Typically, in ancient Israelite households, religious practices usually took place in the central courtyard, which is essentially the main area of the house where meals are eaten and cooked. Ritualistic objects were almost always small and portable, and they were stowed away when not being used. Usually female deities were worshipped, and they were identifiable by their headdresses on their figurines. Food was a large part of ritual as well. Breads, grains, and fruits were used in offerings. Chalices and jugs were also discovered, implying that drinks were offered as well. Sometimes, these practices took place in public places, like temples, but they usually took place in homes.
The practices of the ancient Israelites were very similar to those of the Hebrew Bible until there was corruption. It is noted that Abram, from the Old Testament, wanted to bring Yahweh into the land. Some of the common household practices include circumcision and sacrifice, both used in Genesis. During the settlement period, the ancient Israelites engaged in seasonal festivals or annual pilgrimages to a shrine to express their faith. There was a festival set aside monthly for the first day after a crescent moon, which consisted mostly of feasting and rest. It all changed when the Israelites adopted some of the non-Yahwist neighboring religious cultic practices. These include several specific rituals such as prayer, sacrifices, and the use of terracotta figurines. At the local shrines, the Israelites would use sexual activity to promote the fertility of the land, all around the belief that this would encourage a storm god to rain on the land and produce the nutrients, making the land fertile. This was thought to bring harvests and a growth in herds. It seems like history was almost repeating itself once again, with the worship of non-Yahwist beliefs being implemented in the day-to-day life of the ancient Israelites. This was all until a man named Josiah worked to purify the religion of all outside influence. In order to strengthen the Yahweh beliefs, the king banned idols and their priests, along with incense burners and other items associated with their cult. He destroyed a temple used to sacrifice children to false gods, and worked to bring Yahwism back to its original form. As explored in this essay, even in the times of the ancient Israelites, it is normal for your faith to be constantly challenged, and for you to have different ideas of what you believe in over time. The ancient Israelites' forms of worship and household practices constantly changed until they figured out their identity. It is important to keep on exploring your faith as they did, because you never know where you might end up. The household practices and life of the Israelites was one of the many traditions and rituals, some that have even lasted to this day. Although constantly changing, key parts of our religion are easily distinguishable all the way back to the ancient Israelites.